Village Methodist School, and then the Barley Secondary School. Marital status: married to Lanique Finley, Providence, and the father of 2 sons. So he is fulfilling his role today as father. Work: enlisted as a member of the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force on December 27, 1996. And I'm wondering if we have anything in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today which bears the name Royal from the colonial past. You'll excuse that input. I was a history teacher. He has worked at several outstations, including the Calico Police Station, the Criminal Investigations Department, Beat and Patrol, Special Services Unit, SSU, and Process before he was transferred to Traffic Branch in August 2003. Training: received training both locally and regionally in several areas of his job. Promoted to the rank of Corporal in 2008, to the rank of Sergeant to 2015, and to his present rank of Station Sergeant on the 1st of June 2017. So he is new in that position. Let's give Brother Providence a round of applause for that. Religion: devoted Christian, and he became a member of the Moriah SDA Church in September 2015. So I don't need to ask Brother Providence to stand because I'm sure we all know him, but just for formality. Brother Providence, I'll ask you just to stand, please. Yes. And in case you're wondering why we didn't see him at church this morning, he had a duty to perform since today, the 17th of June, is being celebrated as the Queen's birthday. Notice I say celebrated because that's not the date of her birth. And the Queen's birthday is always celebrated on a Saturday. So Brother Providence had military duties to perform this morning and he wasn't here. So I'd like to invite, I don't know how they're doing it, if they were doing it together or what, but I'd like to invite them to take over and to enlighten us this afternoon on aspects of the law. They will give you their specific titles or labels, and I assume we'll have time for questions and answers. So who am I inviting first? Both together? Okay. So come up, please, and I'll hand over to you.
Good afternoon, church. It's a pleasure to be in the house of the Lord. I'm not a devoted Christian, I'm a backslide, but it's not proud to say that, but I must tell you the honest truth, right? I'm a little bit short, so please adjust for me. Thanks. As Brother Jack stated, that police officer joined 2004 in the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, where I obtained several certificates in terms of seaman, navigations, all about that. God has blessed me. Good. And I must say it's a pleasant being here in the house of the Lord because I don't normally go to church. I don't normally go to church because of work, but that's no excuse. You have to worship God, right? But I still say my prayers, morning, evening, and night. And it's a pleasant being here today, standing before an audience in church where I can really say that God has really, really blessed me. He has given me a son, mother and father, so I'm celebrating Mother and Father's Day tomorrow too. Secondary school, 15 years old, I've done it on my own. My parents normally tell me, if you don't hear, you will feel, and I've surely felt the wrath of that. But nevertheless, I have really made it. And being in the police organization for the last 13 years, it's not easy as a female. But I must say, if you don't have faith as a mustard seed, you will not make it. If you don't have courage, you will not make it. And today I can proudly stand here and say, it's good being in the house of the Lord after so much time. Only time I go to church is like if I have a funeral or somebody invite me to church. And as I say, Brother Providence, I must say thanks for inviting me to church today. Excuse my dress code. And a little bit of what I have learned as being a police officer, I like to share my knowledge with young people, elderly persons also. I like to help persons within society. No matter what you are going through, I always try to fit myself there. I may not be experiencing it at the same time, but I always ask for guidance first before I go there. And being at major crime units where I work, I've been there for 2 years and some now. I deal with murder. I deal with serious crimes. And one of the things that had really touched me is that being a police officer where you have to go and call a mother and call a father to tell them your son or your daughter had been killed or murdered. That's the hardest part, to deliver a message to parents. And I like to say, I'm not a devoted Christian. I give persons the encouragement wherever they are. If you want me, you can get me at the Central Police Station. Nevertheless, I'm on vacation, but still at work, because they normally call me still. But young persons in church, I know that the devil is raging these days. He is strong, I can tell you that. And young people, today, you know that mommy and daddy just want the best for us. You might say, hey, mom and daddy don't have the time, me and time with them, the mothers, my time. But people, I must encourage you young people, young females, everything that glitters, it's not gold. Everything that glitters, it's not gold. Young men, you often said, I want a shoes, I want a pants, I want whatever like that. But you don't know what they do to get what they have. At some point in time, you will get what you want and what your heart desire. And females, it's not everything you see somebody have, you want it to. Same thing goes to the male, same thing goes to the female. And it's very hard to be a police officer and sit down at my desk and you hear females complain to you, oh, this is what I want, mom and daddy can't give me this and I do this to that and that. No, you're only destroying yourself. You're only destroying yourself. I can tell you as a female here, being in church, not only being in church, but I talk to you as I talk to somebody at my desk. When you come and you sit down and you listen to some of the stories that have been told to you, you often wonder why. You will say if. Those are two mischievous words, why and if. Sometimes, as young people, we have to ask God for guidance. Ask God for guidance. If you're not sure, sit down and ask for guidance. Mommy and daddy might be yell at you. Mommy and daddy might hit you. They scream, they use ill words. But sometimes it takes you to humble their attitude. Go to mommy, go to daddy, when they're most settled, and have a conversation with them. Let your parents be your best friend. Let your parents be your best friend. I'm able to say that today. My mom wasn't with me. She works in Mustique with Tommy Hilfiger as a butler and a chef. I was always there with my dad. I'm a daddy's girl. And some of the things you look for mommy to tell you, here I have a father figure telling me. At times, as a young lady, I said, Daddy, I want a pack of pad. And it's like, you're telling him that you want a pack of sanitary napkins and you're watching over your shoulder. Like, I wonder if Daddy know what he mean by that. But young ladies, I'm talking specifically to two of you. Let your parents be your best friend. The friends out there, Ain't no friend at all unless he could tell you that you're going wrong. You don't have a friend until that friend could tell you you are wrong, when you go wrong. And I always said, let God be your guidance. Pray. Not everything will answer now. God only give you what your heart desire when his time is right. When the time is right, he will bless you abundantly. And I always, don't take up station, Sergeant. Probably time. But it's a pleasure being in the house of the Lord again. After so much months, almost a year. Sorry to say, but almost a year. And I like to say, persons in the area, which are tip of the crime prevention and part of the crime prevention unit, is that you know that burglaries are going around. Secure your home properly. Ladies, we know you have the fashion bags, but put them in your arms properly. And we have our crime prevention exhibition on Friday in front of the Central Police Station. You can come and view. There's no cost. You just come, you view, you have a little refreshments. You see how to protect your home. We show you example how to protect your home, how to carry your handbags, your little purse. Gentlemen, we told you how to put your wallet not in your back pocket, but put it in your front so you can check every minute on it. And also, we tell you how to walk in groups, because you know these days you have the tag team rape going on. How to protect yourself, protect your families, protect your homes. And last but not least, I like to say thank you, church, for holding me today, that I can come to say that God has been good to me and he will bless you abundantly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corporal Thema. Let me say pleasant good evening to everyone. My role this evening would be sort of a different one than the one that Corporal Thema has just taken on. I am going to do a presentation, and when Brother Kate had asked me to do this presentation this evening, he made mention that we're going to speak to the young people, the teenagers and the 12 and the 10 years old and so forth. I was not expecting so much adults to be here this evening. Nevertheless, I'm still going to go ahead with the presentation. Now, we live in a country, a very small country such as ours, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we are seeing an influx of motor vehicles into our country at a very rapid rate. As a matter of fact, at the end of December last year, we had recorded some 28,500 registered motor vehicles in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 28,500 registered motor vehicles. And that was last year. We are presently in PW, I think, and we have reached as far as about 400 and something registered vehicles. So we could safely say add another 600 vehicles to that of last year, and we are seeing what is happening. Our road networking is not getting any better. We are not seeing additional roads being made, and our road surface is at a very bad state, if you want to put it that way. This evening, I'm going to stress mainly on what is road safety. And I know there are a number of persons who drive here. There's some young person who expected will be driving very soon. So this evening presentation is basically to address the whole issue of road safety. When we speak of road safety, what are we referring to? This evening when I got back from the Queen's Birthday Parade at Old Montrose, I was about to get some rest when I received a call of a motor vehicle collision in the Rattle Mill area, just before Brother Jack's residence. And having gone there, you know, I'm so thankful sometimes, you know, that God is such a good God. You know, he's such a merciful God. And when I saw the state of an omnibus that was overturned in that area, it gave me goosebumps, if you want to put it that way, that luckily it was not a fatal accident. this afternoon accident we saw where there are 15 persons were nursing injuries at the Milton Keto Memorial Hospital as a result of that accident. And I'm only saying this to say that we all need to be careful as to how we operate on our roads. Now, as I said, a number of us here are drivers, prospective drivers, and we have to know what governs us, how we're supposed to operate as drivers, as motorists on a road of the road of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In 2015, we recorded a record road fatality that has ever been recorded, and that was in 2015, where we saw 15 road accidents, resulting in 26 persons being killed as a result. And that, to date, is our record as to the number of road fatalities for any 1 year. So I just want persons to get these little issues in their mind as we go forward with the presentation as to what is road safety. I want us to be interactive. I don't want to stand up here and doing all the talking. I want us to be interactive. I want persons to feel free to ask any question as it relates to the topic this evening, and I'm certain that should be in a position to answer you. So when we speak of road safety, basically, what are we referring to? I think Brother could have all the question. Well, one of the things that we at the traffic department has to start doing is that, yes, we do record data, but we are not in a position, because we are not collecting that data, and there's something that we have discussed at the department to start getting as to who are these persons that are involved in these accidents, so that we could target these very persons, whether they are adults, whether they are teenagers, whether they are young drivers, whether they are inexperienced drivers. So I'm not in a position to say exactly who are the persons, are the amount of persons that have been involved in these accidents. But what I can say for certain is that there's a variety. There's young persons, inexperienced persons, there's senior persons getting in an accident. And what we are also seeing is that most of the serious accidents that are being recorded happens during the weekend period. And we believe it is as a result of high level of alcohol consumption, and especially on the weekend, when it comes to a Friday evening, persons start drinking. And when you drink, it impairs your judgment. It impairs your ability to do a lot of stuff. So that is why we are seeing most serious accidents occurring on the weekend period. Well, as it is currently with the law requires a person, in order for you to obtain a Class B license or PNR, as you just alluded to, you have to be at the age of 17 years. So once you're 17 years of age, you're going to obtain a Class B license to drive a private or rental vehicle. Once you reach the age of 19, you can obtain a Class C license to drive a T vehicle, and at the age of 21, you can drive an omnibus. The law also requires that you have to be driving for at least 6 months when you obtain the Class B license in order for you to obtain an additional license. So let's say, for instance, you were 20. You were 18, almost 19 when you got your B license, Class B license. You will have to be driving for at least another 6 months before you can have an additional license. So that is currently what is on the books, that how the law stands in regards to the law in relation to classes of license. And we have Class B, we have Class C, Class D, Class D1, which is omnibus and so forth. There are different classes. Heavy T, heavy equipment license, all different carries a different class. And those persons who, when you have obtained all these classes, then you got to be referred to as a Class A, where you can drive anything with the exception of a plane. All right, so that is how it is currently in regards to those licenses. Now, when you speak of road safety, go back to the topic. When you speak of road safety, what are we referring to? Wow. This is very, very, very... Right. Basically, road safety refers to the method and measures used to prevent road users from being killed or seriously injured. So it basically is said that before you go into your vehicle in the morning, you check the oil. You check a lot of stuff. You check the tires for pressure. When you're traveling to school or you're traveling from school or to work, you will wear your seatbelt. These are all safety measures. It is not saying that you're wearing a seatbelt because you're going to get into an accident, but in the event that you're in an accident, the seatbelt would prevent you from being thrown outside of the vehicle, and that's something when a lot of persons receive whiplashes and so forth because sometimes they're not wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelts save lives, and a lot of persons do not like to wear seatbelt, but seatbelt is a safety issue. It prevents you from going forward and so forth. So it is important that we wear our seatbelt, and as I just said, it's a safety issue. That is part of road safety. Yes. It is a requirement of the law. It is. Right. Irrespective of whether you want to wear it or not, the law requires you to wear a seatbelt. And I just want to clarify something, a perception most persons have in regards to seatbelt. Persons of the opinion that if I'm riding to the back of the vehicle, of a car, a Jeep, that I'm not obligated to wear my seatbelt. That is not the case. The law requires both passengers to the front and to the rear of a private vehicle to wear a seatbelt. And there are some very stiff penalties in regards to seatbelt. Occasion can be charged up to $50,000. Subsequent occasion you can be charged up to $5,000 for not wearing a seatbelt. And that's a very, very hefty fine. And I'm certain that we don't have that sort of.
No, I said when I do training. Oh, when you do training? Yeah, training.
Yes, the law requires that persons to the back also wear seatbelts.
Looking for the two persons in front.
No.
That's what I thought.
That is maybe some issue coming from the us at the traffic department and the police and all. That we have when persons to the front because of the impossibility of you being involved in an accident. What's the chances of you getting injured? But as a requirement by law, it is stipulated that both passengers to the front and to the rear must wear a seatbelt. And another thing that we consider on the whole issue of road safety, and this is all about road safety, we also see instances where persons of the opinion that they should not, for instance, my brother William have a very young child there. And we are seeing instances where persons are to the front, the passenger, and they have a 3-year-old in the lap. That is becoming of some serious concern to us at the department.
No,
anytime
you this is probably
again, the law requires that a child of that age where the seatbelt may give you some discomfort if he's to wear a seatbelt, that child should be in a trial restraint system. And it should be to the back of the vehicle, not to the front as well. And we're seeing instances also where persons are placing the very young child in a trial restraint system, yes, but to the front. And I understand why the law is insisting that the child is also. Because if there's a head-on collision with a vehicle, that child is also exposed to a lot of danger. So it is better if he or she is placed to the back.
Ban passengers is committed from the law?
No. Once you're seated to the front of a public service vehicle, a public service vehicle here, we are speaking of an omnibus or a taxi. Those are what we refer to as public service vehicles. The law states that once you're to the front of any of these vehicles, public service vehicles, that you must also wear a seatbelt. There's some exception in regards to persons not wearing seatbelt, and it has to do with police officers. The police officers on duty in a police transport, not in their private transport. So you're a police officer on duty in a police transport, you're not obligated to wear a seatbelt. An exception, and there has to be a reason, because let's say he's strapped in, he has to get out very quickly, he has to go up and run and get a prisoner. You know, the seatbelt might keeping back a bit.
Public maybe
Police is
something.
also
I
attached to the prisons. They also have the same.
Yeah, they once they in a police vehicle,
and
they could do
people who are transporting like goods from one place to another within 60 meters of these places. The law doesn't require them.
No, not in the here we say
So
not
those,
in
there
the
are some
personal car.
exceptions.
Government.
Persons also who are sick or difficult when they see child or be pregnant, the law is not exempting you, but what the law is required of you is that you have to seek something from a doctor. So your physician might say, okay, you're not in a position to wear a seatbelt. Even if the physician says that you're not in a position to be pregnant, you have to take that from your doctor and take it to the Ministry of National Security and then get an exemption from his office for wearing a seatbelt. So those are the exemptions in which persons are not obligated to wear seatbelts.
Next question, please. When you're driving behind the wheel,
Yeah, need paper.
required when you're driving behind the wheel?
No,
When most times when you're driving in traffic,
That was quiet
you
paper.
find bumper to bumper.
How much paper she needs?
right, no, there's not a stipulation in the law as to how
9 sheets?
far you should drive. There's a recommendation from the highway code. The International Highway Code requests that you stay at least 50 feet.
You see how the paper going?
Length away from a vehicle that's traveling ahead of you. But we'll understand and appreciate what is happening in a bumper-to-bumper traffic situation, that if you're going to stay at 15 or 20 feet away, somebody's going to fit it in front of you.
Okay,
So, it is not a stipulation, as I said, within our law, as to how far you should drive, but something that we try and instill and educate the public just to ensure that they're not involved in a rear-end collision. All right? Yes, Pastor.
That's just a follow-up. What my brother is saying. I found it strange in St. Vincent because everybody doesn't know from St. Vincent. I was telling my wife that when we were being taught to drive, you had a certain amount of listening and you
I guess that's it. So here we're gonna do. You're gonna bring this one to play.
I download both of them.
Right.
Download them and
This is the
convert
track,
them.
and then the other one is the
Yeah, both of them open.
Accident, that is true.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, presently our traffic act is being
Here, this one here.
looked at, still in its early stages of implementation, and we're hoping that a number of issues will be incorporated into this act
Yeah.
because of up to par with international standards and so forth.
So them two there.
But we as presently we have to go by what we have on our books.
No problem.
Pose a question and then I'll hand over.
Yes.
Brother Providence, I'm going to make a controversial statement and I want people to respond to it. When I learned to drive a few years ago, while I was using my hands and my feet and my eyes and all of that, everything went through the seat of control, which is the brain. Now I'm saying something obvious, am I not? But it seems to me today, when I see the amount of accidents that take place, a lot of people do not allow the brain to control the driving. They drive with their hands, they drive with their feet. Sometimes wonder if they drive with anything else. Because, I mean, I've really seen some real stupid behavior. I remember even once a tutor shared this with me. He was teaching a male to drive. He was driving in Kingston. The guy he can't even handle the vehicle properly. And the driver, the tutor is teaching him how to use hand signals. He said, me not going to put my hand out on a vehicle. I ain't doing that. So the tutor said, what do you mean by that? He said, I tell you. The tutor said, okay, stop the vehicle. And the tutor refused to teach him to drive. And I mean, when you really see, I live on the main road. And when I see not only the accidents, but the ones that don't happen, you wonder what is going through people's minds. Are they concerned about consequences, for example? Okay? It's just unfortunate that almost every time I spin you here, either serious accident or even road fatality in my vicinity. And I mean, this is an area where I grew up from the age of 3. So you could understand the changes that are going on. But I'm really concerned about that because I think if you really check it out, a lot of the people who are driving do not care about road safety, do not care about consequences. Thank you.
All right. Before I get Brother Atley, Brother Jack made a very valid point in regards to hand signals. And persons must understand, even if you're driving your vehicle and you turn the indicator on, your indicator might be showing on the screen that it is turning, it is working, but the bulb to the back might be blown. So in addition to using your indicator lights or the mechanical lights on the vehicle, hand signals sort of reinforce that signal. Right? So, and we know what the hand signals are. You're slowing down, you're stopping, you're going to turn. We know what those of us who have license should know what the hand signals are. So hand signals is sort of a reinforcement to the mechanical lights that is on your vehicle. Yes, Brother Atley.
I sit there, back to the seatbelt, I thinking, most vehicles that come in, most vehicles have 4 sets of seat, four straps of the seatbelt, 2 in front and 2 in the back. So if you have a family of 5, which means only 4 you could go if you have to strap front and back.
There's usually, most vehicles has 3 straps in the back. There's one we call the lap belt, which just goes across the individual sitting in the middle. And 2 others that we call
most of the passenger van, when you sit in there, you have a seatbelt.
To the front?
To the back.
The passenger van are not obligated, our passengers are not obligated to wear seat belts to the back of a passenger van. Just those persons to the front. All right? Sister Green, you have a question?
And to Brother Jack, to strengthen Brother Jack's point, long time days, as Brother Jack said, you have to use your brain. Most vehicles long time used to be standard.
Yes.
So, but nowadays days, most vehicles come in automatic.
Correct.
So it used to be less accident long time when you had the more manual thing. You have to use your hand, your brain, and your hand to everything.
Well,
but now we automatic. We get in a lot of accident.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but we also have to appreciate that. And I just give you some figures up to last year: 28,500 vehicles in St. Vincent. A very small country like ours, that's a tremendous amount of vehicles. And cardboard came, I think, last week. Another 200 or 300 vehicles, I understand, came off Thursday, according to Corporal Tim. And probably another 200 or 300 vehicles. Our road surface is not getting any better. We are not seeing new roads being built. And it is a tremendous challenge also for the traffic department. Yeah? So sometimes when you see these officers on mornings at Annisville and an evening, it's not an easy thing to regulate traffic in those areas. I'm telling you, it's a very, very difficult task. You know, so sometimes when you meet them and you believe that they are holding up too long, give them a little time. Yeah? It's not easy. All right.
Brother Providence, I want to make a comment. It's good to learn the hand signals, but sometimes the mini buses make it very difficult for you to use the hand signals, because sometimes you push your hand out and before you know it, you know, so it's very difficult. I've had that experience already. So I think that is why persons like me, I would be rather, I really don't use my hand signals because of the way the minibuses, etc., behave on the road. I would really, well, let me ask, what measures are in place to deal with vehicles that are overcrowded or overloaded, especially with school children?
Well, you're sort of preempting the presentation, but I'll answer you nevertheless. Now, every vehicle in St. Vincent and Grenadines is registered to carry a certain amount of vehicles. And again, this is all part of road safety. As school children, if you are going into a motor vehicle, an omnibus, and you are aware that this omnibus is licensed to carry 18 passengers, and the conductor or the driver is telling you to sit down in the lap of a friend, maybe your sister or some other person, my advice to you is do not ever take that chance. Because what is happening there now, there's a contract between the insurance company and the omnibus driver. You are licensed to carry 18 fare-paying passengers. If you're carrying 23 or 24, who now becomes the excess? And I have known of situations where persons have difficulty getting paid from insurance companies because they are reluctant to pay because the vehicle was overloaded, overcrowded. Who then becomes the excess? And we have seen situations where a vehicle is licensed to carry 18 passengers and they have 30, 34. And you might think I'm overreacting, but I'm being honest with you that this is a fact. That omnibus, you'll see a situation where the front seat or the seat to the back, everybody's in somebody's lap. You know? And then you have to be careful because you're opening yourself to a lot of danger. So if you are in a position where someone is asking you to sit in someone's lap, refrain from doing that. It's a very, very dangerous practice. Now, before I take Sister Kid, the law in regards to excess passengers. So let's, for instance, there are 18, there are 20, let me say 26. And I'm just going to throw it up to see if anybody is in a position to answer me. There are 26 8-year-old children in an 18-seater omnibus. 28. The question is, if that vehicle is stopped by police, is the driver committing an offense? Let me see who said no. So Sister Kid is saying no, and everybody else is saying yes. Sister Kid is correct. Driver is not committing an offense. The law states 2 persons under the age of 10 should be counted as one. Right? A toddler or infant in the arm is not counted as a passenger. All right? So once you're under the age of 10 years, 2 persons are counted as one passenger. All right? Well, yes, they're covered. Because it's not carrying an excess. All right? Right, so they're not carrying an excess. Yes, Sister Otley.
Earlier you mentioned the fact that at 17 years old, people get a PNR.
Yes.
And at 19, they go to a Class B.
Class C.
Class C, and
yes.
You went on. I am thinking, right, if things would be different, if we change the age at which people get licenses to drive omnibuses. You see conductors for a few months or a few weeks as conductors, and then afterwards you see them as drivers. They have no respect for life. Well, you know me, Brother Providence. I would. But I am thinking, if we, the law enforcers, change things in their regard, change the laws, do whatever they have to so that these conductors cannot be conductors today and drivers tomorrow. And they are the ones causing a lot of the problems on the road.
True.
And maybe we have control over that. We'd be able to say, look here, you have to be over, or you have to be 30 years old, or something like that in order to drive. Now, people will call foul and say, oh, the rate of unemployment is high, people need jobs. But we need to have some kind of respect for people's lives, right? And the second is really to Officer Tim. I was at work
some time ago, somebody called and said that they saw a young lady from where the neighbor was. She was able to see everything. So she saw a young lady, she was underage, went through my window, took off the screen, whatever she did, went through the window, jumped in, took whatever she had to take, and she went to another door in the house. And when she reached on the road on the other side, she had a different outfit on. So it looked like this person knew what they knew what to do. When I went to the police station, I told, as a mother, my heart went out to the young girl. I told the police officer that I do not want to press charges. And then I was thinking, what provisions do we have in place for people who are committing crimes who are underage? I told them then, send the young lady to Marian House or to do some kind of community work or something. But I was at fault. I never followed through to go back to the police station to see whether that was done. But the thing is that young people are getting away, and when they know that they are getting away with these things, next time you check it, you have hardened criminals. So what provisions do we have in place to address young persons who just have chosen a life of crime and who are underage?
All right. Okay, let me answer the first question before Corporal Teams comes. In regards to, as I made mention of, in relation to persons driving at a certain age, and I'm in total agreement with you, Sister Hartley, in relation to the age at which persons obtain omnibus license. We at the department are also concerned, but until the act is revised, we have to work within the framework of the law. The law does not give us the authority to refuse any person once they have passed the necessary test. Even though they were conducted today and tomorrow they become a driver, once they have passed the necessary tests, there's nothing we can do, really. But again, as I said, the Traffic Act is being repealed, and we are hoping that we have gone forward and we have spoken to the Attorney General, and we are hoping that these will be incorporated in the Act. We are hoping also to see common stream a point system where you are gain certain points once you are ticketed or you're charged for an offense, and once you accumulate 6 or so points, then you automatically lose your license. So we are hoping that to see that common stream, and we are certain that would help us to really combat some of the issues we have, especially with omnibuses on the road of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
My question comes in relation to the points. I know that it is currently used in the United States. I'm not aware of any Caribbean islands that actually would have had that enforced as yet. Is that specifically for the omnibus drivers or for all
drivers?
All drivers.
All drivers.
Now, I have a little problem with that. And the problem is that most of the times, the omnibus drivers get away with a lot of things, all right? And before we get to that stage, I think we need to address age, experience, and stuff like that, and then evaluate how that is working before we go to the points thing. Because I can tell you, it's easy for somebody to chalk up some points. Simple things like not putting on your seatbelt, and you could barely make a mistake. You know, it's not an intentional something, and next thing you know, before the end of the year, you have a whole lot of points. And the next year come, you get some more points, and you can't drive again. And the van driver overtaking crazy. He heard from the other partner that police are on the turn, so he slowed down and behaved okay. He passed the police, and then he behaved bad again. But then you make a mistake, and you are punished. I've seen this thing happen over and over again. That's why I'm suggesting that.
Well, let's hope if it do come on stream that it doesn't happen in that way. All right? Yes, my sister.
and they're drinking. Sometimes they have it in a bag, and they're drinking and they're driving, and you can't tell them anything. You also see them texting, driving and texting, and nothing has been done. Nothing is happening.
Well, again, that's why I made mention earlier that our act, the traffic act, needs to come up to our standard, to the international standard, the current standard. Because as presently, if the police meet someone driving, and that police might assume that person is drunk, he might smell the fragrance of the alcohol on his breath, he might be staggering across the road, and the police assume that this person is drunk. And the police say, let me see if he's drunk, let me go and test. And that individual said, no, that's it for the police. Police then has no authority to take him to the doctor without his permission and do a test on him in regards of his blood alcohol level. He must give you permission. If you refuse permission, the police cannot act. Right? And the police cannot go to court and say he appeared to be drunk, because that is not evidence. Right? The police must have something concrete to say his blood alcohol level was such and such over what the law requires. I know, for instance, in countries like the United States and Canada and so forth, and even right in Trinidad, that what we refer to again, the breathalyzer test is being done. That also is one of the things that should be coming on stream in your act, the breathalyzer test, the speed guns. Those are some of the things that should be incorporated in the new act. So once these come on stream, we would be in a better position to combat these issues of drunken when driving. I know now it's carnival time, and a lot of that happens during the carnival period. But presently, that is the situation. That is why our act needs to come up to international standard, to come up to current standard.
Yes, Mr. Providence, what happened is that, yes, Brother Providence, we have issues, and when we bring this, okay, like we're in this setting and we discuss the issues, it dies right here. You understand?
Right.
If you have, you take points, jot down points, and then you take it to somewhere. But too often, we have issues, and we talk about them, even on talk shows, and then it dies right there. And this thing keeps recording.
That is why all of us, as citizens of St. Vincent and Grenadines, whenever there's an issue presenting itself to us that needs to be addressed, we have to ensure that it is addressed and that is not put under the carpet. We have to ensure as citizens of St. Vincent and Grenadines that we work together with the police, with other NGOs to make St. Vincent and Grenadines a safer place, because it is impossible for the traffic department or the police force alone to really safely deal with the issue of road safety in St. Vincent and Grenadines. It has to be a collaborative effort, and everybody has to get on board. If we do not do that, then we will be referred to doing what is spin stop, tap in mud, because the police cannot be here, there, and everywhere. There needs to be other stakeholders involved to ensure that this country roads are safe for all of us. Yes, Sister Fergus.
Yes, Brother Providence, we are looking at the method and measures used to prevent road users from being killed or seriously injured as a result of road safety. Now, we are aware that we are driving in vans, and the music sometimes is so loud. Is that a contributing factor in a lot of the accidents that are happening? Sometimes the van is so loud, it cannot hear what is happening outside. Somebody may be shouting. And I'm saying that to say, I recall one midday, I was standing right at the bus stop there, and a van was on fire. And I'm, for hell, shouting to tell them the van is on fire. It was only because Sister Phoebe from Bible Church recognized me, put out her ear enough, concerned enough to realize I'm telling her, fire on the bus. So how, because the music was so loud. So what part is loud music played in road safety?
Well, you're correct to some extent in regards to some of these omnibuses' music are so loud that the driver would not be able to hear if his tire is breaking off. Now, the whole situation with the issue of music in omnibuses is that we use a charge under section of Regulation 31, which says no musical instrument should be played or operated in any vehicle. And that is any vehicle except on the written permission of the Commissioner of Police. Now, our law has some little flaws here and there, and in this act, we had a little flaw. And it took one lawyer to put up a no-case submission in court because our act does not define what is a musical instrument. Right? It says musical instrument. Some person may say musical instrument is a guitar. Right? The law did not define what is a musical instrument. The matter goes before the court. The lawyer objected to that, and all the other offenses of that nature were thrown out. So presently we are in a position where we cannot prosecute persons for music in vehicles. On the other hand, the Noise Act, which speaks to persons using music at a bar, from their homes, and other places of, even places of worship, places of business, that act speaks to what is a musical instrument. And it refers to tape and music and speakers and these as musical instruments. But because the Traffic Act did not speak to that, that is the position we are in where we are not able to prosecute. Right. What we advise persons to do, and we again had written off to the Attorney General to see some clarity, and she wrote us back and give us a sort of way as to how we can go forward. But again, it is very challenging where we're receiving a number of challenges in this area. And it's where, as you quite rightly said, Sister Fergus, if you are affected, you have to come to the traffic department, maybe give us a written report as to what happened. Police may then prefer some charges under the Noise Act. But again, we are seeing instances where persons are coming to the office, they're reporting the incidents, but they're reluctant to go to the court. They do not want to give statements. They are saying, oh, I don't want nobody to do me this, or you know what, the usual stories. But in the absence of that, the police cannot proceed without your written statement. So if you're affected, and you come to the police, but you're refusing to give a statement, then the police cannot proceed further than that. Well, I would not tell anybody not to pay their fares. Okay? Some person might take it in a negative sense. Affected. That is true. That is what we advocate from time to time. Stop, ask them to leave you where you are, and maybe you could pay fare for that journey. All right? Now, you also spoke of another issue in regards to the omnibus and music, and whether or not the music plays an important part as to how these omnibus operate. If you notice, or you would have been observing that most of this music are dancehall music coming out of Jamaica and so forth. And I could remember about some time ago last month, I was on a radio program with the president of the Omnibuses Association, and we were discussing the very issue of music in omnibuses. And this is coming from the president of NOBA. And he was saying that he believes that because of the lyrics and the content of some of this music that are played in these omnibuses, it gives the driver a hype, and they drive in a certain way. So then that's why we were saying that if that is the case, if you as the president of the NOBA is saying that because of the lyrical content of these music in these omnibuses, that it is creating a hype for the drivers to drive recklessly or dangerously or without due care and attention, that it is more reason why we should take the music out of these public service vehicles.
Or Providence, just before Elder George goes. Now, I happen to just peep inside, helping to adjust the font size of the presentation. And I know that Brother Providence has a lot of slides to go through. So I'm going to recommend that you go through the slides because I perceive them to be very informative, and then we can ask all our questions after. All right?
All right.
You'll get to ask your questions.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. The Traffic Act is being looked at right now. So some of these things would be incorporated inside of it. All right, I'm going to take the pastor's advice and we're going to go forward. Constable? Oh, yes. Tim's question, okay. Remember the question, Tim?
I remember she wanted to know what advice there is. In terms of a teenager, there is so little as a police officer we can do, right? Is that even there's a report made to the police station, whatever police station there is, in terms of a troubled teenager, in terms of what that person has done. Being a teenager, we call it under the Juvenile Act. Police officers can carry them to court. If they commit a criminal offense, carry them to court. But the sole decision is being made on the Madam President. That's the person who's in charge of the family court. She might sanction that that child be taken to the Dodge or be sent to the holding area at Central Police Station, whether for 2 months, 3 months, or wherever. But when that child's come out again from that holding area, that child goes back to the same old routine again. But what we are doing now is that we are advising parents, because in parents, we have a great deal to play, you know. Because we leave our children up for society alone. And we expect, hey, teachers and police officers and persons in society to take care of their children. But mommy and daddy have a role to play at their homes. You can't enforce everything on a child, because you could tell a child, don't do that, don't do this. But when that child goes out and that child is faced with other persons or other teenagers within that group, there's a thing called peer pressure. They go down that road that you don't want them to go, or you are being forbidden them to go. So as police officers, we are facing with, hey, you might take that child, carry that child to court. We involve the social welfare, where the social welfare sometimes they come to the homes, investigate the persons where the child is living, the community where they are living, to see what best fits that child, whether to take that child from the home, put it into the Dodge, or put it in the girl's home. But when that child comes back out into society as an open area, where it is more exposed, it goes back to the same old same again. So we as police officers and you as persons who are concerned citizens, we are battled back and forth to the same thing over and over again. There is so much we can do. But for me, I thought as a police officer, when being interacting with teenagers, yes, you might send them to Marian House or counseling. All goes well for the first month, 2 months, 3 months, where the social worker will be there interacting with this child, see what is going on with this child. And sometimes it's not that the child does not have a functional in terms of he or she does not know what they are doing, but it comes back from their background at the home. That child might be a troubled child. And sometimes we say, oh, you are a criminal in society. If we as individuals, and for me, police, I must say police has to be faulted at times, you know. If we as police officers and parents, because I'm a parent also, go back to that child home, we can see that that child is troubled from home. And then we have to start rooted that child from the very beginning, come right up to put us stand to where that child is now, because we want, okay, you go and you arrest that child because, for instance, some of these children, you see for inter-school sports, you know, mom and daddy going to work, they dress so manly to go to the sports. But when you see these pictures, you want, they go with this little piece of thing here on the bottom and they out there. Mom and daddy didn't leave you home, so mom and daddy didn't send you so. But they change because they are mixing with different company. It's not that we as parents sometimes not bring up our children in the right way, no. But they are exposed to different things, social media, peer pressure, the society out there. They want to be like somebody else. So sometimes, as I say before, it's not that the police is not doing what we are to do, but we need a helping hand also. We can't do it alone. Marian House could only counsel that child so much. Social welfare only assists us in terms of finding out, investigating the background, moving that child from one home which is trouble to another home. But sometimes I want to feel we need to be investigated to the ground root of what is contributing to that child's attitude and behavior. We can only take that child to court. And after the child has been taken to court, in terms of a criminal activity, have been charged criminally, and you can only be charged criminally at 16 years old to go to jail. Before 16 years old, you could be recommended that you either go to the Dodge, go to the girls' home, or be taken into police custody until you serve your sentence. After 16 years old, you've been tried like an adult. So even though we try to at Marian House and social welfare, there's so much we can do, but in society today, we as parents and police officers, I think we need to work hand in hand with the community and work with the young people to let them know how things really are. Because we are losing our young children these days. We are losing our young ones. So the social welfare and the Marian House, and we have like counselors in schools and in churches and stuff like that, I think we need to work together and bring the young people together to know exactly what is happening and teach them. Because even you charge them and carry them to court, when the court says, hey, you're going in the hole in the Central Police Station for 2 weeks, you are exposing them to the hardback criminals. And we can't do anything about it. That's the sentencing. So we all goes back right down to society again. So we can only do so much. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Corporal Tim. We're going to go forward. Who are road users? Typical road users includes pedestrians. And we know all who is a pedestrian. A cyclist could be a pedecyclist or a motorcyclist, and we know the difference between that as well. A motor vehicle, passengers, and some persons might be surprised as well that animals are also typical road users. We see cattle in diamonds all the time. As a matter of fact, our law states that if an individual is crossing the road with his animals and he puts up his hand, that motor vehicles ought to stop. It is a stop signal as if it's given by a police officer. All right? So our law is quite clear on that animals also are road users. What is the importance of road safety rules? Road safety rules is important so that all drivers uses the road safely and cautiously to help them keep themselves, passengers, motorists, and pedestrians safe. So it is basically easy for us to understand what is the importance of road safety rules. Now, road safety rules, in addition to that, we talk about traffic rules or traffic regulations, is what we refer to as strict liability offenses. And I'll just explain that to you well. Why is it important to obey traffic laws? Traffic laws are important to obey because they protect the safety of drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. And I was saying to you a while ago that traffic laws are what we refer to as strict liability offenses. In other words, you are liable. So for instance, if there's a sign that says right turn only, and you turn left, it doesn't matter what your excuse is. You could have been taking your pregnant wife to the hospital. It doesn't matter what your excuse is to that officer, you are in breach of the regulation. It is now only for that officer to use his discretion and say, okay, he was taking his pregnant wife to the hospital and let us go this time. But there's nothing to say that the officer cannot still charge you. So your defense does not determine whether or not you are charged. If you are to turn left and you turn right, you are in breach of the regulation. Simple as that. You are liable. Now, I'm just going to give some pointers as to how to avoid accidents. And I remember I said to you, I was really looking for the youngest members of the church, but we are not told to learn. How to avoid an accident? I remember years ago when I was a young child, people used to always say when you go to town or when you are crossing the road to look up and to look down. It is something that we do not practice or we do not ever try to say to youngsters, because I know today they are more intelligent than us then, you know. Young people today are far more intelligent than us. But looking up is looking up, and looking down is looking down. You know, so what we try to tell them, to look left or to look right. All right? So even you as parents, when you are sending off your kids to school, do not tell them to look up and look down. Tell them to look left, to look right, and then to look left again. And if it is safe, they cross. And sometimes we neglect that, you know. We neglect to tell them if it is safe. It doesn't mean if you look left and you look right, you cross. You look left, you look right, and you look left again. And once it is safe, you cross. You also have to listen, as Sister Swen just made mention of. So that is one way how to avoid accident. You can also do so. Pay attention to the stoplights and painted signs on the surface of the road. Be alert when crossing the street and keep eye contact with drivers. So just do not just cross. Before even if it's a crossing where there's an officer who is regulating, always pay attention to that driver. Because there might be a careless driver who didn't see the police stopping him. And one of the things that I noticed that we practice here in St. Vincent is that as soon as the policeman do that, everybody crossing. Even before the police say to cross, person started already. We have to be mindful of that. Because there are some drivers who are very careless, who may not be paying attention. All right? So always be alert. Always use sidewalks where they are available. And this is, again, is a very sore point for us. We do not like to use sidewalks, and I don't know why. Well, you have a point there. But you notice the slide said where they are available. I know, yes, there's a serious issue in Kingston in regards to sidewalk, that it is overcrowded with vendors, and sometimes, you know, pedestrians have to walk in it. But I understand that. But even where they are available, you can try as much as to use them. When walking at nights, be seen by wearing reflective clothing and use a flashlight available. And this one is especially for Brother George and Brother Green, sometimes who goes jogging late on evenings. It is always best to use something reflective, something where the drivers of these vehicles can see you. Do not wear dark-colored clothing where you'll be harder to see. It puts you in a very dangerous position where you could be struck by a motor vehicle. So Brother Green and Brother George, wear something reflective. Right, you see what I'm talking about, reflective? And these are not really the best, because these are more so for police and security persons, but you could see there's a jacket and so forth that are reflect. These are what we're referring to. Another example. Okay, I think I got to go back there a bit. Okay. Right. Now, if you're going to cross where there's not a sidewalk and there's a continuation, always walk facing the flow of traffic. And maybe somebody could give me as to why do I think that is important? That you walk with your face, the traffic facing you. You don't want to walk with the traffic to your back, because something could be happening there where you're not able to see. So it is best always to walk where you can see the traffic coming towards you. And again, always walk in a single file when walking with company. And single file remind me of a military term. In a single file. In the training, and when you're in parade, they tell you about that. But single file just means simple, one behind each other. Right? Especially when you're in crowds. And I'm going to give you an example of what we're referring to. Single file. One behind each other. That is the best option when you're walking in crowd. Now, what is a pedestrian crossing? And I guess, as I said, it's most mainly for the young people. And we seem to be in the habit also that we are reluctant to use pedestrian crossing. I have seen instances in the past where persons are blatantly neglecting the police officer on duty there and are choosing rather to cross the street elsewhere. Now, persons must understand, especially parents. Now, you are in Kingston with your child or your children. There's a police officer on duty regulating and maintaining the free flow of traffic. You come there with your child, and you are of the opinion that the police is taking too long. So you walk up the road, a little further of the police, and you skip between the traffic. Now, you have to understand that you are your child's best example. So when that child is in Kingston without you or in your absence, he is going to do exactly what he sees mommy and daddy doing. So we ought to be careful when we are neglecting to obey the police officer on duty. When he goes to school and the police is regulating, he's going to do the same thing. He's not going to wait on the police. And you're opening that youngster, that individual, to a lot of danger. And we have to also be mindful that young children, they are not able to judge speed and distance as we would as adults. So when we do not adhere to the rules, we are putting them in a lot of danger. Right, a pedestrian crossing is a specific part of a road where pedestrians have the right of way to cross the road from one side of the road to another. And we all know what is a pedestrian crossing. Rules to observe before you cross a pedestrian crossing. Stand to the edge of the crossing and wait for the traffic to stop. Stand at the edge, and Pastor just made mention of the couriers. There was something going all along to the road. Stand on the edge and wait for the traffic to stop. Cross when the traffic has come to a complete stop. So don't cross when the traffic is slowing down, but when you come to a complete stop, you can cross. If there are more than one lanes, be sure that the approaching traffic has seen you. All right, I'm going to go to them as fast as I can in the interest of time. Traffic must give way to you once you have a foot on the crossing. And I want you to remember that we will get into a little bit of that a little later. Right, now drivers to stop if pedestrian walking within crossing. The driver of every motor vehicle shall stop his vehicle at the first line of a crossing if there is a pedestrian going from one side of the road to the other. And what I'm referring to, this is directly from the law book. This is law. This is from the Traffic Act. So if you are crossing on a pedestrian crossing and the driver failed to stop, he is in breach of the regulation. Once that is reported to us or it is seen by an officer, he can be ticketed or taken before the court of law. Driver of vehicles approaching to stop if necessary. The driver of every vehicle shall, and remember he's saying shall, he's not saying might or may, it's saying shall, which is an indication that it must stop for you. Shall stop his vehicle at the first line of a crossing if there is a pedestrian going from one side of the road to the other. I think that's, this was a video with regards to, but I'm going to skip the video today. Pedestrians to have precedence over vehicular traffic. Now, the driver of every vehicle and approaching the pedestrian crossing where traffic is not at the time being controlled by a police officer shall again allow free and uninterrupted passage of any pedestrian who is within such crossing. The authority that you have there as a pedestrian, plenty of authority. Driver not to stop on any pedestrian crossing. And again, I guess we'll see that from time to time. The driver of a vehicle shall cause such vehicle or any part of the vehicle the driver of a vehicle shall cause such vehicle or any part of thereof to stop. Shall not, it should be, shall not cause his vehicle or any part of thereof to stop on a pedestrian crossing. Basically saying you should not stop on a pedestrian crossing. Again, you stop on a pedestrian crossing, but there are some circumstances in which this can be allowed. And one of them, unless he is prevented from proceeding by circumstances beyond his control. All right, for instance, somebody stops suddenly in front of him, he has to stop to prevent a collision, then that's okay. Or as I said again, it's necessary for him to avoid an accident. So these are two situations where this does not apply to the driver. All right. Now, we speak about what the driver should not do and what is expected of the pedestrian. Now we're going to look at pedestrian to remain on should not remain on pedestrian crossing longer than necessary. And we have seen it so much times. You are going at a crossing, persons with their sophisticated cell phones and their sophisticated gadgets, and they have the earpiece in the air, and they're texting while they're going across this. Some persons, they stand and having conversation. They stand and they turn back. Now the law is saying, no pedestrian shall remain upon any crossing longer than is necessary for the purpose of passing from one side of the road to the other with reasonable dispatch. All right, so if pedestrian crossing is not an area for you to hold conversation. It's not an area for you to be texting or changing the music or listen to these gadgets. And person must understand these gadgets, yeah? Because we from time to time only look, but we don't listen. And it is important that we hear what is happening, know what is happening around our surrounding. If you have these headphones in your ear, it would be almost impossible for you to hear. Even if something is shouting, somebody is shouting at you to get off the street or get off the crossing, because if something is happening, you will not be able to hear. So it is very important that you desist from these gadgets as well. Right, and we're coming to the end. This is just some road sign that really talks about pedestrian. This one to my left here, this one here is just saying that it's a pedestrian crossing. This one said you cannot walk as a pedestrian crossing. You know, some places like Canada and the US, they talk about jaywalking. Right, you will see a sign like that. Can't walk there. Just an example of what we refer to pedestrian crossing, what are we referring to? Pedestrian crossing, and this one is also a pedestrian crossing. This one you will not find in St. Vincent. This one you might see in St. Vincent with the yellow borders. All right, those are just some examples. We don't have stoplights in St. Vincent anymore. But that one, that guy in the yellow jacket there, that's a lot of power and authority as well. That number 1 and number 2 stop signals you see in there. Stopping traffic from the front, traffic stopping to the rear. Those are referred to as stop signals. Once they are distributed, you see them by the police officer, it is your duty to stop. If you fail to do that, you can also be ticketed or taken before the court for failing to comply with a stop signal. All right? And we are coming to the end, and this is the end of the presentation. And there's a little quote that we have here. Love safety, marry rules, and divorce speed. Practice safety, knowing is not enough. All right, so that is the end of the presentation for this evening. And at this point, I will take any questions you might have. I see Sister Kate hand first. Sister Swift, sorry.
Well, actually, I held on to the
Pastor
mic
first.
Because since earlier when the mic came to me, I wanted to ask, but I wanted you to finish your presentation first. Sis, you'll get your chance. I wrote down because I knew that I wanted to just make some recommendation. These are my observations. We really need some road signs.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm asking on behalf of the church now because I've discussed it with some of the other leaders. Can we volunteer to do some signs for the traffic department, and what's the process so that we could start on that as a community project for St. Vincent and Grenadines?
Yes, you can, and we'll be very grateful. And one of the ways we could really put an impact is that you could just contribute, for instance, paint, mirrors, and you could source them, and you could also identify an area. If you identify an area where you think that a mirror is needed and you're willing to purchase it, we will do the fitting and put it up and put it in place.
No. While I appreciate those areas, but I'm talking more for like the speed signs, the stop and stuff like that.
Yes,
These are the things that we often take for granted. And I believe that persons growing up driving in St. Vincent and not seen any signs, I want to believe that they believe that, signs are really non-existent. Also, in order to try to catch some of these van drivers, I believe that we could install some CCTV, all right, in some locations, and you could get to see how they operate. I know in some places they do that, all right? And I want to know about the power of the traffic officer or police whenever there's an auto collision. I remember a Sabbath evening like this. I was coming from a groundbreaking ceremony that they had in Oya. And when I got by Sign Hill coming up, I noticed a truck was coming down. I pulled to the side of the road, and I was basically giving way for him to come down because he looked as if he was coming with a lot of speed. Now, the funny thing is that his chassis bent, right? His chassis twists. The front pass, but the back is over, and the thing hit my right side as he was passing. He stopped, he came out, and while he was talking, I realized that this guy was intoxicated. The police came eventually, and the police said, well, Pastor, I could see you're right and everything, but we don't have any authority to arrest the man. We can't compel him to do anything. It will be up to you now to sue him. And I'm telling myself, what kind of country I'm living in? That this man is clearly wrong, and there's nothing the police, who's supposed to be there to protect and serve, can do to him. I must now come and take a civil case up with the person to get any justice.
Right. Now, let me start with the very last question in regards to the accident. If a person, maybe I've neglected to mention this earlier, if the person is drunk and he was driving, the police has the authority then to take him into custody, right, to ensure that he does not go on and cause any further accident down the road. For his own safety and the safety of others, the police can take him into custody until he is in a better position where he can drive his motor vehicle and so forth. But the police has no authority to let's say, arrest him for the accident, except in a case where he doesn't have a driver's license and so forth. But he has a valid driver's license, his truck is valid, and, in your case, where he seems to be intoxicated, the police can take him into custody for safekeeping, because the police is in his opinion that should he allow him to go forward, he can cause further damage to somebody or somebody's property down the road. All right? Brother, sister, Suen is first.
Brother Providence, I am a teacher at Stubbs Government School, and I have every morning, a matter of fact, during the course of the day, my heart is in my hand. Why? Because the pedestrian crossing is around a corner, a blind corner, and also, although it's a school zone, and my interpretation of a school zone is that the vehicles go slowly. We have had close call, and I often say it gotta be angels watching those children around that corner. Is there anything that could be done? We have a crossing guard, but she's only there on mornings. She comes at 12 o'clock, and she comes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Other than that, we don't see her. Kindergarten especially overs at 2:45, and sometimes the crossing is there unsupervised. So as a teacher, I would really love to have, I don't know if it's possible, to have a permanent officer there at the corner. It's terrible, or speed bump or something like that, because, I don't even think the sleeping policemen do anything, because they fly over those too. But it's a serious issue. We had about, and I'm not joking, we had about 6 close calls in 1 week along that road, and especially on that corner. Even me as a teacher, if I am late for some reason and the crossing guard is not there, it's a challenge for me to cross over there. So I don't know if there's anything that could be done to help us out, please.
Right. You mentioned that the fact that the crossing is placed in the corner. It might be a situation where we need to probably switch the crossing.
There's a junction that goes up where most children come from Victoria Village,
right,
coming down there. So I don't know if that was the reason why the crossing was placed there, but it is and then the trees,
right,
are not being trimmed as often. So
in regards to the crossing, it is something that we at the traffic department can deal with, because we are responsible for placing these pedestrian crossings where they are. So it is something that we could, from our level, we could deal with the crossing, where probably we need to just be switched a bit.
And like what Pastor said, even the signs need to be changed.
Right. And I agree with the Pastor, we definitely need some signs. In regards to the issue of a permanent officer there, even in Kingston, we only put persons at these crossing at the peak hours. So even Kingston is from 7 to 9:15. You go back out sometime at 10. We go back to the crossing from 11:30 until 1:15, 2:30 until 4:30 p.m. So we are really putting them at the peak hours where we can just ensure that our children cross the crossings safely. But I understand your point, and I recognize that the close proximity of the stop schools, with the public road, and I don't think that school is fenced either. So I see your concern.
I don't want to talk anybody's business, but in terms of that crossing guard, I think she could stay there for the day because she does nothing else. Forgive me for saying it, but it's true. She goes home and then she comes back at 12 o'clock.
She lives close by?
Yeah, she lives in the vicinity.
Okay, I understand. Maybe that we could look at that as well. I think Sister Green was first. No, Brother Adley. Brother Adley.
Brother Providence, you mentioned about the amount of school children traveling the minibuses. I have two questions, one for you and one for Corporal Tim. Right? Have you ever think about going into the school to sensitize the children about riding these minibus? And the next question to Corporal Tim. Within a late, we have seen some real strange crime that is really taking place in St. Vincent. Sometime I have been in conversation where I heard about some of them, in terms of drivers using different number plate in terms of getting away. Because there was some breaking in the village just before you get into Choppins, right? And somebody was pinpointing to me that a certain vehicle was used. But they know the vehicle, right? But the person took off the number plate and put on a different number plate. And we have seen with the incident in Down Sion Hill Bay, where the person was killed and the body was dumped on the beach. Right? So I'm asking the question, are the department beefing up their detective skills?
Well, let me answer the first question you asked. As part of our ongoing educational drive, we are into schools very regularly. Just recently we were in Stubbs Primary School. It's something that we do quite often. It's an ongoing process for us. We do not just leave it here. We go to the secondary school, the primary school, and even the very young toddlers, we go to them and speak to them about road safety. Because as I said earlier, it has to be an ongoing process. It has to be a collaborative effort on all stakeholders. So yes, we do educational drives and support in regards to getting the message out to the schools. I just want to say something before Corporal Tim answer you in regards to the registration plate. Because of the system that we have in St. Vincent and Grenadines, where Sister Kate could just go to SOV and say to the persons on duty there, I own PT 776, I want a number plate. They are not going to challenge or ask for anything in regards to any information as to show ownership of this vehicle. and they're going to provide the plate. And that's one of the difficulties that we face. All right? We recognize that these are some challenges, issues, and this can only be rectified once we have a system in place where all the vehicle registration plate is standardized. Until it is not standardized, we're going to continue to have these issues where a person could just go and make a plate without any question being asked. And we are seeing from the Department of Traffic that it ought not to be so. If you're going to ask to build a plate, one of two things. You get something from the police to say it's okay, showing ownership, or you provide something to that company they are going to, that you are the legitimate owner of this vehicle. Because you might find somebody take the pastor's registration plate and go and commit a crime. And in most of the cases, when a person uses a vehicle to commit a crime, number plate is fictitious. All right. Before Corporal Tim comes, after Corporal Tim, I'll take 2 more questions. And say that again. So I'm just going to ask Corporal Tim to come now and answer the question.
Just to clear up a little bit of what you stated, right? Station Sergeant probably speak about number plates. In terms of when you have these criminal activities being taken path where they change of number plate, we have no control of that. But we have to bear in mind as police officers still and persons out there that chassis numbers for a vehicle cannot change. No 2 vehicles alike have the same chassis numbers. In the area that you are speaking about, which I will close not to call about, we would have gotten reports about that. But are the persons who happen to see these offenses being committed willing to come forward to inform the police about it? And I think, no. That's a big question mark we're huddled with. Is that, me want John Jones see me because they go send me an informer for police and all that. But how you want me to combat crime when you are consoling the person who is committing the crime? Because why? You are afraid of them and they are your friends. Persons may say that, if I go and tell the police of John Jones, I hear about my name that I told the police about that. Some persons normally come forward, they don't give any names, they give us the information. Some information are accurate, some information are not. Some information come to us because of why? Me and Lucy Jane, or Lucy Jane and I, were friends and we have a fallout. So I squeal on Lucy Jane. And when I go to Lucy Jane now, get the accurate information, lock up Lucy Jane. Are you coming forward now to go to the court? But we have a system now where that you can testify against persons and they do not know who you are or cannot see who you are. That is the system we are going down now. We have just passed that law too. So if you have to testify against somebody, they won't know who you are, the voice is being changed, modified and everything like that. But in terms of crime, yes, I'm not going to hide it. Yes, we have that crime going on, where persons use the same vehicle and change different numbers. And for instance, that vehicle you talk about, the 2 persons at San Hill Bay, I turned away because I was once there when I discovered the persons, and they are my friends. It touched me. But bring us back on crime. We are a society, we have to fight crime, and I always tell people is that it's not the police alone, it's everybody's crime when our crime has been committed. And we have to fight it. It's not, yes, police get bashed, and sometimes we deserve it or no. We deserve the bash because we know better. We know better and we should do better. But we tend to be lead and go astray at times. And we need to pull back our society. We need to pull it back. So in the sense of where you have the criminal activities, not your village alone, we are being complained about. We heard other villages complain about it. But we often ask, as much as I'm working at major crime, I'm all about, because I have to work all about at times, are there persons willing enough to come forward and say, well, okay, Tim, or officer, you know, such and whatever the case may be. I don't have to use name, I'm not that. But if I'm seeing my criminal activity going down tomorrow, I want to be on point and know that criminal activity going down. I want to be there to stop it immediately. So it's that we have to work hand in hand to combat these things. On the question where gang rape is, right, team rape, is that I dealt recently with a case where a group of teenagers went out besides their parents. Well, they tell mommy they're going one place, but end up differently. And it's like, 3 of us are together, and Station, same as a little boy, sorry, but he's a Station big man, and he like you, right? And he like your physique, your parents, whatever. And the 2 of us know about him, but we did not give you the information that, oh, he like you now, you know, whatever the case may be. And he might commit an offense, either he touch you where you're not supposed to touch you, as a young lady. He places that not supposed to touch. As a young lady, you know indecent assault is touch you on your breast, touch on your bottom, your vagina, where there's not appropriate of a man to touch ladies, right? Without their consent. And as a young person, you can't give consent. You cannot give consent. And both of us know what he did, but we tend not to say anything. We denied that he ever done such thing because all of us are friends. We don't want to get into trouble. So we also consider that as part of a gang rape. That if it happens to go to the court, we can be charged criminally to conspiracy. It's not only him will be charged, but all parties. Even though we do not do it physically, as in touching or holding, we can be charged criminally for conspiracy. That is, we go with the carnal knowledge of knowing that he committed an offense and hide it. It's just like incest at home, where brother, daddy, or uncle, whatever, might have interference with a young one at home, and the mommy knows about it, and she fears not to do anything at it. When the child is informed of what had happened, we are now charging the mothers and the fathers for this.
That's what I was
Under the Children Act was passed 2010, we are charging persons. Once you know about it, we are now charging you criminally.
Officer Tim, are you also charging the parents who go and settle the matter? I was working years ago on pediatric ward, and a 5-year-old came. Doctor said, apparently they took the child to the doctor assessed the child, sent the child for admission and safekeeping on the ward. When the nurse assessed it was clear that the child was sexually abused. You know, months after that, nothing came of the case because the mother settled. So I am saying, are you going to charge those mothers who are settling the matter with those perpetrators?
Yes, I had a road program with that because I normally be on the beat also. I'm part of the organization that go about and inform parents and have one-on-one with children also at schools. Under the Children Act now is that if there is a report that comes to the notice of the social welfare, they can't do anything without us. And we cannot do anything without them. Is that once a report is being made and that child is gone to the hospital, even though they don't tell the police anything, and they take that child to the hospital and there's any sign of sexual assault to that child, the police is being alerted immediately. Mommy and daddy and auntie, uncle, cousin, aunt, whoever decide to settle it, you will be charged because you have the knowledge of it. Under the Children Act of 2010.
Of duty bearers.
Duty bearers. Responsibility, there's a lot, and I don't want to take up time for church. There's a lot. It's just that our duty bearers under the Children Act is that once a child or children comes to you with a report, you are the first person that child comes in contact with, and as an adult, you have to sit down, listen to that child, form a relationship or a bond with that child, communicate with that child properly to get as much information as you can. You're not going to leave that communication, that information with you alone as a duty bearer. You have the responsibility, you have been tasked with the responsibility to go out and inform the police officers, or if you feel comfortable informing the social welfare, you can do that. If there's a child being abused, not by you or by somebody else within the community, and that comes to your first, or your sight, or your being, or your knowing, you are tasked with the responsibility to report that abuse immediately to the social welfare or the police officer. Even if you report it to the social welfare, they have to report us to us. Because I'm also one of the persons in the law with the Child Abuse Act. So you as a duty bearer, you have a very important task, is that you have to make sure that once you see a child, you are the ears and the mouth and the listening ear on the ground in terms of children in and around your community. It does not really necessarily have to be within your community. If a little boy come and tell you, oh, you know, Tim being abused by she auntie, and you might say, well, Tim, come here, and you might have a conversation with me, and you might ask me questions that will want to clear up certain things. And there's any physical sign, in terms, you know, parents tend to beat the children sometimes when they vex a little cable wire, a little belt or whatever, a laceration or abrasion on the child's skin, that is part of also abuse. So these are signs you look forward. As a beauty bearer, these are things you have to look forward in the community to report to the social welfare or to the police officers. Yes, I can, and sometimes no. The reason why I said no is not that I might have a sensitive information in terms of a child being sexually abused by father, right? I do not feel comfortable telling you. You understand what I'm saying? I might not feel comfortable telling Lucy Jane in my community because I know Lucy Jane can't keep she more quiet. So I ain't gonna tell she. Because at the end of the day, Lucy Jane might not do the utmost thing where Lucy Jane might go and tell or inform the social welfare or inform the police. She might go tell Mary Jones down the road. And before you know it, between tomorrow morning and tonight, the whole community have the whole conversation going on. No, I said form a relationship with that child. In the terms when I said form a relationship with that child, is that when you conversate with that child, you try to build a one-on-one conversation, a rapport. You're not, when I say form a relationship, it's not that you're going to cling on to that child whole and soul, you know. You're going to make that child feel comfortable, bring back up its self-esteem to discuss with you what had happened to him. Sometimes it will work with us, sometimes it works against us. Because being as a police officer, I have dealt with children where you know they have been abused, and basically some of the ladies, they don't want to talk to a female police officer, they rather talk to a man, a male officer. Sometimes it goes on what the child is comfortable with, or who the child is comfortable speaking with. Because there are certain things that child will want to reveal to a female, and there are certain things that child would rather reveal to a male. So it all goes, you have to know, as I said, as a duty bearer, you always have to know where your option as who child you are speaking with. The compatibility, we should be forming a relationship where I could be easy to sit down, I could be telling you, well, you want a glass of water, can you have some juice? To make that child feel as comfortable for us to have a rapid conversation. I'll take one more question, please.
Okay, I would say, what I wanted to say, you should explain who is a duty bearer. One, so people understand that once you're in the community and you see something, you're obligated to talk. Okay? The other thing is that you have counselors, and the counselors are not being sold as how it ought to be. You hear teachers say, when a child has a problem, what child they want counseling? And the children see that as a punishment. So they don't want to come forward with anything to come and talk to you as a counselor because they see you as, you're punishing them, right? It's a punishment, or they want counseling, so they wouldn't come forward to tell you. There are other instances where there's a situation where a child come and tell you something, all right? And then you're stuck because the child has been threatened at home, and then when the child tell you, the child has to go back into that same home, all right? And they're being challenged, and so that they shouldn't talk, all right? That they can't talk because they have to go back into the same home. And unless something is being done where, okay, you have counselors and counselors. You have counselors, you have to befriend that child. You befriend that child. As you were trying to explain, you befriend the child so that she's comfortable with you and she's ready to tell you things, I remember an incident where there was a certain child and she was being abused. And she keep running away from home. And you say, but why she's running? The mother says, I don't know nobody that she nothing, and she run home. So one teacher say, the husband, mother said, no, you not do that. And in the end, that was the problem. You understand? So if the children are in homes that they are being abused in the home, right? And they're being threatened, and they don't know how to talk. And sometimes when they come, sometimes they confide in another student, with another student in the class. All right? They confide to another student. But when you're ready to deal with the matter, they're afraid to come out. And I remember there was an incident we had 2 sisters being abused by the stepfather. But where would they go? Where would they go? You see, so a lot of these things are happening in society, and unless there's a home you can put them, we have like a girl's home, a family home, and they feel comfortable, We had another assistant where a child had gone to a home that they provided. And when the child went to the home, and they gave her something, and she said, me want this. What happened? You're getting things better where I may live? All these things happen to these children that they abuse, and people, yes, Brother Jack, they abuse, and when and those who are taking care of them further compound the problem.
Okay, at this time, I think we're going to have to wind up our sessions. So I'm going to ask Station Sergeant Providence just to give his closing remarks to him, please.
All right. First and foremost, let me thank you for your participation in this issue. These are very topical issues, and you could see that from your participation this evening. I want to encourage you as a body, as a church, that we are to be to the forefront of these burning issues. We are to know what is confronting us. And feel free at any time. I'm always here. I'm part of this assembly. So feel free at any time. I could come back on another occasion and really disseminate some more information as it relates to traffic safety. And also, I can get Corporal Tim to be back here on another occasion. Because, as I said, these are very topical issues, and we need to confront them head on. So once again, I want to thank you. Thank you very much for your participation, for your questions. And if there are any other question that you think you might have, as I said, I'm always here. Feel free to approach me, and I'm certain I'll be able to answer you. Thank you very much once again.
Okay, on behalf of the Moriah Church, I want to thank both participants for their presentation this afternoon going into evening. When